Huh? Live now, so. Figure out why I couldn't get audio. See. How about now? Can you hear me? Yeah, but can you? I can't hear you still. I'm talking with somebody right now, so just bear with me. If anything, we just go to Zoom, and so just bear with me one moment. I'm in like one of those chat things. Have we done a StreamYard before? I thought we did. Can you do you see in the bottom, Robbie says what they're telling me is you see a little bar at the bottom that says settings and all that stuff at the bottom. Go down to settings. I think it's settings. Go to audio and like test your speakers and all that. Any luck? Did it work? Technical difficulties. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. Let's see here. What now?
Can you hear me now?
I gotcha.
Okay.
We are good now. All right. What was the deal?
I don't know. I'm not going to touch it.
All right.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna get off this chat with this person here, and then we'll be good to
Okay.
go.
Cool.
What's up, man?
Oh, man. Just fix to start spring ball tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. You guys are starting quick.
Well, and it's just me. My defensive coordinator was hired Friday to be the baseball coach. They start tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
My linebackers coach is still wrestling, and my offensive line coach is still in girls middle school basketball. So it's just me.
So
I'm
he
sorry.
goes. Your one of your coaches goes down and does middle school stuff.
He just goes. He's next door.
Okay.
He and the baseball coach are from the community. They're not even with the school. My linebackers coach teaches a wood shop across the hall from me. And since we've talked, I've actually moved. I moved to the Four Corners region, almost Arizona.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So you're still technically in New Mexico, right?
I'm still technically New Mexico, yes. Now I'm on the largest Native American reservation in the United States.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, out here. If it wasn't for the mountains behind me, I could see into Arizona. So I've gone from seeing Texas, now I can see Arizona.
Huh. So I gotta ask, how is the football in New Mexico?
It depends on where you're at. Southern part where I was at for the last 16 years, it's pretty good. I mean, Texas is right there, so you have Texas Tech in your backyard, and a couple other places, but it's a little different up here in the corner. Like I said, we're on the largest Native American reservation there is in the United States.
Yeah.
And this is my first head coaching job in 27 years of coaching. So,
you coached last season, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I moved up here last April.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Last year was your first year as a head coach. Remember you advertising everything about you were super stoked, and I was happy for you, man. That's awesome.
I'm still super stoked.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my first gig. Hopefully soon. although my wife would probably get on here and say he potentially could have it this year, but we're not going to go there.
Right.
We're not going to go there yet. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, so it's been a minute since we talked.
It has.
Yeah, I'd like to try and get back into it, but now you're starting spring ball, man. So I guess just I would like to hear about your first year. Just tell me about it.
First year, I moved up here April 3rd. I went from April 3rd to the second week of July, and it was just me as on the staff. There was no other coaches. So luckily, I had some really good senior leadership. When we were all installing things, I could actually give the kids a piece of paper and explain to them what I wanted.
Right.
installing an offense, I could tell our Mike linebacker, which was coming from Texas, helped me a lot. I was able to give him paper and say, hey, give me a 4-3 cover 3, and we're going to run this play. Or this series plays against this, and then flip it over and give somebody else an offensive script and me install the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So this coming summer will be our first summer for 7-on-7.
Cool. So, not to go before we go further, how big is the school, the high school?
Up until a couple weeks ago, we were a 4A school, which is 800 and something kids.
Okay.
And
So that's kind of similar to where we are in North Carolina. We technically where I'm at is considered 2A with about 700, maybe a little bit over that. So the numbers vary a little bit. State.
Right. But we're actually going down in classification. We are if I remember the numbers right, we are the 12th high school in the county. We're in town. Everybody else is out on the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
We're going down in classification, and we're going from playing all the way at the other corner of the state on a weekend to now we're just going to play within the county.
Is that better for you, or I mean?
It will be. We had a 3-week stretch there where we left at 4:30 in the morning one morning to play at 1:30, and drove all the way up there and all the way home.
Wow.
On a Saturday, and then played again within an hour there the next Friday and came home, and then went to another corner of the state on a Friday.
Is that just because I've never been to New Mexico, so is everything just so spread out?
Everything's just all spread out.
Okay. Wow. I was kind of curious about how they would do that. So, I mean, that's going to save you some serious driving time now.
It definitely will. We've already started getting film from teams we're playing next year. We've already started exchanging film with those guys. I've got to know one of the guys pretty well. He texts me almost every day. He's going to be a rookie head coach next year too. He's only been coaching 5 years. And he wants to know, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I'm like, I can tell you how I would do it, but
right.
that's not necessarily everybody's way to do it. So,
now that because now what does that do as far as the level of competition? Since you're going to be seeing the schools in county,
mm-hmm.
Will the competition go down? Because obviously you travel across state, you're gonna probably more than likely run into some teams that are probably pretty decent.
If and when we make the playoffs, this will be the first time they made the playoffs in over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I took this job, they were 0-20 over a 2-year period. We've changed a lot of things around here. Once if we get into the playoffs, like you said, the competition will go up considerably. Teams that put more, what's the word I'm looking for? More structure into the program, maybe.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about it because I don't know how much you watch the YouTube channel, but I released a video not too long ago about getting into, what kind of skills you would need to get into like head coaching or get into ball coaching in general. I kind of lay out some of the skills and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious. You coming in as a new head coach, tell me what you're doing like day one.
Day one, we called a school meeting, and any boy that wanted, let me rephrase that, any person that wanted to play football. I had 2 girls that played for me this year.
Yeah, how they do?
It was cool. It was very cool. My linebacker and defensive coordinator's daughter was our kicker. She had played soccer her whole life, and she just wanted to be with her dad. She wanted that daddy-daughter time, and she could kick. So I was like, why not? Right?
That's
awesome. She actually played JV linebacker for us. The other young lady played offensive tackle for our JV. Her brother was our starting wide receiver. She had never played. She told me the same thing. I just want to be with my brother. I want to make some memories that nobody can ever take it away from us.
That's pretty cool. How'd they do like in the games and practices?
They had never played before, but just the mentality of the sport and what I loved was the boys just embraced them.
Physicality was not a problem or anything like that.
Not for them. It wasn't. Not for them.
That's good.
I'm the new guy on campus. I walked in the first day and I'm eating lunch in the cafeteria with the athletic director, and you could hear the kids like, "Who's that guy? Who's that guy?" And finally, we had a team meeting the next day, and I just called him in and I said, "If you do what's right, because I believe in faith, family, and football.
Right.
Your faith comes first, regardless of what happens. Then your family comes next. And you do what you're supposed to do in the classroom and do what's right in school, then you can be a part of this program. We'll find a piece. There's a piece of the puzzle for you."
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. So that was day one. So that was you said spring, right?
Last
Okay.
April 3rd.
Okay. So I guess just take me through like summer and into like installs and stuff like that, because I mean I'm assuming you kind of went the spread route, the air raid a little bit. I mean, was it full on air raid or was it just spread with air raid principles kind of?
It was more. I've done air raid certification. I've told you in the past that some of my friends are really close friends with Coach Umami. I mean,
Right.
They were there when it started. So we just walked in day one, and or I walked in day one. They'd been a flex bone team for the last 2 years, so they kind of had the ideas of the two outside receivers. Because I'm one of those guys that leaves X on the left and Y on the right all the time.
Right.
And they picked up.
You just like me. Yep.
And it felt just right where I'm using colors in a wristband, and I actually printed the wristbands, made 11 of them, and installed it with the wristband. So it made it easier for them to know, hey, on 90, if I'm the shallow guy, this is what a shallow is. That was the teaching part.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll get that here in a minute, hopefully. So relatively the first year, I imagine relatively small playbook.
Very small, very small.
Yeah. Which plays did you use?
I used a combination of all of it. I mean, just because of the kids I had. We started one kid quarterback for 2 weeks, and our best athlete was our F. And I sat down with the coaching staff on one Sunday, and I said, we're giving him the ball 70% of the time, our best athlete. Why don't we give him the ball 100% of the time, and he can dispute? I'm sorry, we can dispute it or put it out where he needs to put it. But if it all falls down, it's in his hands.
Right. Now, your F is that typically your running back or your slot?
F is my running back. Sorry.
Okay, same. So you're the same as me too. I couldn't remember how you label yours, because I mean every coach is different.
Yep. Yep. And that's what I portrayed when I hired coaches. None of my coaches had ever coached football.
Right.
At the varsity level, they've coached junior high level, but they didn't. The sophistication of what we're doing, I didn't want to leave them in the dust. So I made it where the coaches could teach the kids, or the kids that had been with me since April, they could coach the coaches.
Right.
Because they knew X went left and Y went right. They knew the color schemes. They knew that, because I do it a little bit different, kind of like the blue and green set that you use, or Coach Mummy uses. That's what we call red and green, red and black.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell the Z where to go with the color. So black tells me to go left, red tells me to go right. But a really small playbook. Running game, we ran zone, GT counter, power at the beginning, because I try to keep all the blocking schemes the same.
Right.
We ran some of the quick game, 66, outside hitches, inside seams, stick. We ran shallow, we ran mesh, Y sail, and verticals throughout the year. And our biggest play that helped us a lot this year, this would be one you might want to look into, is we put in this nasty slot, a true tight end, flex him out 3 steps,
right,
and put H inside of him. So it gives you almost a 4-man blocking surface. But running we called it Utah, and ran Utah like Urban Meyer's shovel pass.
Yeah.
Back to the weak side.
I might actually, before we get off, I might ask you if you can draw that up, or I can share, and you can just kind of guide me.
Yeah, I can do that.
Because I'd like to see it. Because to be honest with you, when I first got into this whole, not necessarily air raid, but when I started coaching, and then getting into the head coaching, especially starting with middle school into high school, my inspiration, I fell in love with Urban Meyer's power spread.
Mhm.
When I watched him in Florida, I didn't see which is even funnier because I'm an Ohio State fan, so watching him beat up on my Buckeyes in 06 was rough. But that's when it kind of was full full go.
Right.
But man, the way he used his athletes, I was like, that's brilliant. And so that was my huge inspiration. So you talking about the shovel stuff, and now you're speaking my language. That's where I got kind of my backbone in it, and then eventually evolved into more of the spread to pass kind of offense. But that's
Right.
awesome. I would like to see that. So you guys, starting first games like late August, early September?
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's first full. Let me check here real quick. It's in August. We're going to play our first game. Our scrimmage will be August 9th, and our first game will be the 16th of August.
Okay, so that's very similar to North Carolina where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of curious, how is the weather during that time? Like, what is the weather like?
We don't have the humidity that you guys have down south.
Mm-hmm.
We have more dry heat.
Right.
What we're fighting right now is in the last, I don't know, since Christmas, we've had 3 snow days. We've got
send me those pictures. I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, I never thought New Mexico would get hit with the snow, and especially the amount of snow that you sent me pictures of. That was insane.
Yeah, the 6 or 7 inches, and the kids that are in town can get to school, but the kids that are outside of town can't get to school. I mean, there's still unpaved roads out here.
Yeah,
and they delay school as long as they can. But they're saying right now, if we have another snow day, we're not getting out till June 13th.
Oh, wow.
And we have 7-on-7 the next morning.
Oh man.
So,
and you guys start tomorrow spring ball. So what is that? What does that consist of? That because you said it's just gonna be you.
Probably just going outside and just learning terminology, getting out the big red dummies, getting out the sled, which I really don't like hitting the sled until we start working on our drive blocking.
Right.
Because like you said, with the power spread, we're too busy pulling somebody. It's hard to block when if you're on the sled.
Yeah. For those that are I see they've got a couple of viewers in here. This is Robbie from New Mexico. So if you've never seen him before, he coaches out in New Mexico. It's a whole nother world out there. I've never been. I'd love to go visit and see it. So he's this will be your second year head coach, and so
yes, I'm in Gallup, New Mexico, which is out on the Arizona line.
Gallup, you said?
Yeah. So if you follow Interstate 40 and Route 66 all the way across the country, you'll come right through here.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think the farthest west I've been I would say probably Dallas or Austin, Texas. So
right. That's still another 8 hours away.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I drove back Christmas. I went and picked up my daughter and drove to Texas, and actually ended up in Dallas, and it was like 9-hour drive.
Yeah, I mean, I remember driving into Texas. It's like, gosh, it's like it's a country in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Get from one spot to another. You never think about it until it's got to take 6 hours to get this far.
Well, that game I was telling you about, that was a 7-hour drive one way.
That's insane for a football game. I mean, now granted, we had playoff games like we had to really last year we had a playoff game where we had to go out the Outer Banks in North Carolina for where our high school was. That was like a 2-hour drive one way.
Yeah, this is
and we're sitting here thinking that's a long drive. Here you are with a 7-hour drive. I mean, I'm surprised you're not staying somewhere.
Well, and we don't have the money, but we're blessed where we have bus drivers. Thank goodness coaches don't have to drive.
Oh boy, I'm jealous of that.
So we just thank God every day we don't have to do that. Because
so I mean, how did that work? I mean, because do you take 2 bus drivers on a trip like that, so one can sleep, one can drive, kind of thing, or they shifts?
Yeah, 2. And one of my assistant coaches is paralyzed, so we have to have a Suburban for him. So we put a lot of stuff in the Suburban with his wheelchair, and 2 of the coaches go with him.
Wow!
So we have 2 drivers for that as well.
Now that 7-hour drive, is that a school bus drive, or did you guys kind of scale up for those kind of longer drives?
No, it's a school bus driver, but it's one of the fancier. It's not a Yellow Dog bus. It's one of those. That's another scale up.
Okay. That's a long drive on a school bus.
It's still a long drive, especially when those kids are sitting two to a seat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you man, and then asking them. So you get there, and how long do you have before you're playing?
That particular game, I think we got there right at 2 hours before kickoff.
Jeez, I mean, if anybody drives that far, I mean, they're going to be exhausted.
Well, we stopped. I think we stopped every 3.5 hours.
Well, even still, I mean, like I go. My family's up in Ohio, so I mean, for us, it's like a 10-hour drive when you take the family. We stop 3 or 4 times with the kids,
right?
But still, you even get to your destination, you're still exhausted,
right? And then you got to feed them.
Yeah,
you feed them lunch.
You're expecting those kids to go perform at their best for another
with
2 hours
with Subway in their stomach.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even imagine that.
And then coming home, we stopped at Pizza Hut, or we had made arrangements with Pizza Hut to pick up pizzas, and we're eating pizza coming home.
Right.
And you got indigestion from pizza, and
oh
you can
man,
imagine on a bus.
I bet. I mean, even though it's nice to get that kind of, I mean, probably that's the higher level of competition, having to go travel those, but not having to do that this season, and then kind of just keeping it within county is going to be a blessing.
It's going to be a blessing. It definitely will be. I mean
don't get me wrong. It would be nice to, get that level, because like you said earlier, you're probably not going to see the type of competition that you would see if you were making those trips.
Right.
And sometimes playing up to that competition, your kids are going to get better. You know what I mean? Sometimes teams have a habit. I don't want to say I have a habit, but have a tendency to play down to the competition. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that sometimes they don't necessarily get better. So having that, that's the kind of the downside is the way I see it.
Well, we're going to X's and O's wise. We're going to see stuff these kids have never seen.
Yeah.
We're going to face 2 teams that run the single wing.
Yeah.
So we're facing one team. They're 2 tied in double wing. I mean, they're foot to foot splits, and my kids are like, "How do I get through there?" And I was like, "You don't have to worry about till August. We'll get you through there." But these kids know a lot of those kids. I mean, they're out around town. They know them through, Little League baseball and stuff like that growing up, which is a good thing, and 2 of the schools we're going to play are now they're getting brand new coaches too. Like I said earlier, one of them called me and was like, "How do I do this? How do I get this going?"
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the questions you're asking, like, how do I start an offense? How do I start a defense?
Yes.
But
so I guess we'll rewind back to because I want to hear about the first season.
Okay.
Take me back to your first day of actual legit practice. Your first install.
Very first day was just teaching the kids. I don't believe in a really long warm up. I mean, we're talking 5 or 6 stretches just to get the heart pumping. Yeah. You read Coach Mummy's book, he's talking about, lion chasing down a gazelle. I believe it.
Yep.
But just teaching discipline, whether they're touching their toes or not, if they're actually clapping when the whistle blows. But then after we got that going, since it was just me, I was just able to, I have 2 fire hoses that we've cut up and marked them off for splits for the offensive linemen. Even though we've talked about this before, we do a knuckle bump thing for splits.
Yep.
And but just to teach the kids the basics of, one formation. If there's a motion, you put the motion in that day. If it's a run or if it's a pass, and you run that with the first 11 kids that get there, and you tell the other 11 or the other 22, watch what this kid's doing, do exactly what he does, because we don't huddle. So, going from behind the end zone to the 20-yard line and getting some sprint work in, but you're sprinting to the line and knowing what's going on. A lot of water breaks, because these kids hadn't done anything since the November before.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to run them off the first day and say, Coach B's trying to run us off. Well, I'm not trying to run you off. I'm just trying to tell you the tempo that we're going to do this. That's about what it's going to be. Is first group runs it. As soon as that whistle blows, the first group goes to the other sideline. and jogs down the sideline. The second group's hitting the 20,
Right.
or the 10, whatever we're doing.
And we're maximizing reps. Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's not a kid for that position, we still go without him. As long
Yep.
as we had a center and a quarterback, I figured we could run the play.
Yeah.
If I didn't have 4 receivers, I couldn't run. I don't know the passing concept, but they could look at me and like, okay, coach, what? And I could teach them signals that day too.
Yeah.
If we're running whatever the run play is, I'm signaling the run play to them, or something like that. Just repetition. And they're like, we're only running 2 plays. I'm like, no, this is day 1. You got to know where to line up first.
Right. So day 1 consisted of basically just formations and maybe, your first play or 2. You kind of like
right. I think we ran 1 formation that day. We ran Coach Miami's terminology. We ran ace the first day, and we ran 12 and 13 zone.
Right.
And it's zone read. I've gone and shrunk plays down. Mackey talks about it all the time, where you shrink your playbook. Well,
absolutely. I've
shrunk the play calls. You look at those guys, and you said Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, his words got longer and longer as he moved up the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just, in our blocking schemes have shrunk down to zone, a gap scheme, and maybe speed option, and still just zone for my offensive lineman. So we got basically two running schemes.
Yeah, and that's fine. Because again, simplifying is the name of the game.
Especially for kids that don't know. And
I'm a firm believer, and I don't know who said it, but what coach said it, but it's been said through the years. It's better to do a few things great as opposed to a bunch of things average.
It's Bruce Lee. Yeah.
Is that Bruce Lee?
It's Bruce Lee.
Is that Bruce Lee? Okay, well then I'm.
One of my principals was a karate guy, and he
I'm quoting a legend. I just didn't know if it was a legend as far as football coaching or just a legend in general.
Right.
But no, I totally agree with that because I made that mistake when I first got my first head coaching at middle school. I said this on a video a long time ago where I had 90 some plays because I felt like I needed to develop something, a scheme for every situation. Oh man, what happens if we get in a 3rd and 4 and I'm on this hash? I want this kind of play. And I would develop that play up. So just kept adding the playbook, get thicker and thicker. And I said, what am I doing?
And I fought that this offseason because I'm losing my best athlete. And, the kids I've got the kids trained right now. We go in the meeting room after weights on Friday, and I'm showing them video, some of the Tony Franklin stuff, some of the Coach Mummy stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, why is that word different than ours? Why is it called ace and it's not called white? I'm like, well, that's what they call it. And everybody in football calls something different. But I've got them trained where they'll actually take the dry erase marker and they'll draw plays. Now I tell them, hey, you can draw me a play, but that doesn't mean we have to put it in. And they're good about it. I had a kid the other day, he drew exactly our 14-15 GT play and then boot off of it. And I said, okay, how are you going to block the front side? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, we got the quarterback coming out. There's somebody got a lead blocking. He's like, oh, I never thought about that. I said, well, that's things you got to think about when you start drawing plays on the board. You got to account for all 11 players.
Absolutely. When you started installing, how many did you do? Like a 3-day, 4-day? What did you
do? When I got there in March, I went through all our formations and I tried to install one play in that formation. We even worked it where when we installed our GT play, we only did it to the right. We didn't even do it to the left till the next day. And I changed the formation on them. So basically, to answer your question, we went through probably a 5-day install when I first did it with them. And because we didn't practice on Friday, so that was Monday through Thursday and came back. So it was probably a 5-day install. But then when we started in August, I trained our coaches where we were going to have a 3-day install. Because we went, let me see if I remember this right. We went Monday through Friday the first week, started school the next Tuesday, and we scrimmaged on Thursday. So we only had less than 9 practices. before our first scrimmage, before our only scrimmage.
Now, kind of curious because I mean I've kind of done it both ways, kind of messed with it, and kind of went from a 3-day to a 4-day install. Kind of curious how you would do it. Like for example, if I did a 3-day, I was trying to, and I was purely install mode. I was trying to put in, a run scheme, a screen, maybe a drop back, and definitely a quick game. All in, and those I would have at least 3 plays for that day, and then I'd switch it up. And then but for me, I've kind of done it both ways where I kind of did like speed teaching where I would teach, say we were running stick, right? I would teach them stick out of 2x2 or ace, but then I would also show, hey, do real quick, get into early, get into late, and we'll show you what it looks like. And this is exactly what it is. And I would explain the rules real fast, bop, 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 and then move on to the next thing. And so really would touch on 3x1 to start off with, but then kind of come back to it a little bit more detail later. Just show it to them so they know, and then would do the same thing with all the other plays. So they kind of, and I would say, if it's a concept, like stick, like corner, we do the same thing out of 3x1 every single time. Each receiver is going to be in the same spot. Each receiver is going to have the same responsibility. And so eventually they got to it, and they understood it a little bit better. Does that make sense?
What we also did was like day 1 was ace because it's 1 back. Yeah. Day 2 was 2 back. Day 3 was trips.
Okay. That makes sense too. Because I know there was another way too, like where like Salas talks about it a little bit, where he would do the first week, which this makes sense to the first week would all be 2x2 stuff.
Right.
All of it, which is fine. I mean, and I've tried it. I mean, it works. And then the second week is, you get into your 3x1. And then by that point, you are preparing for the season. So then now you're in game prep. Now you're so. And I mean, I for me, I can't figure out which way works better or which way I prefer. That's why I kind of intermix the two of them. You know what I mean?
Right. We did it that way, but we also did it where, because the way we run practice is by, like, the first thing we do is runs, screens, quick game, 90s, RPOs. So there's your 5 segments or 5 of your 10 segments of practice. So you're going through practice and you're going all the way through.
Right.
And we have water technicians is what we call them. So kids don't have to break to go get water. So they're constantly getting that feedback. And then we can run bandit drill there at the end of practice where we all come together and we're marching down the field as fast as possible.
So you do that at the end of practice every day?
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah.
That too, and I like it, kind of treat it as conditioning because you're going quick. Yeah.
We put the, Coach Mumming always shows the film clip of there at Florida in 97, 98 when he throws 94 and he goes for 99 yards.
Right.
That it was on the 1 yard line. I showed the kids that and I was like, there's no reason to be scared. They got 99 yards to cover.
Yeah.
Even if we're running the ball. But we just march it down the field, have the kids mark the ball. If it's a run, it goes 5 yards. If it's a pass play, it goes 10, or if it goes farther, it comes back 10 yards.
So you're doing that on air too. Because I've kind of toyed with the idea too of doing that same drill, but adding a little bit of a nuance to it, and then kind of add a little bit of competition to it. You know what I mean?
I think you can put your secondary and your linebackers back there. You can put your 7-on-7 back there. But if it's a run play, I mean, you don't want those linemen standing people up. And
I'm glad you brought that up because I've messed with it both ways. So, like I've kind of messed with this, and especially in middle school, I did this, where did the bandit drill, right? And like you said, put the secondary, the back 7 in first, right? And just had and ran pass plays, and actually just kind of ran to the offense because I mean I didn't want to just limit it to pass plays up and down the field, there and back kind of thing with both offenses. But then the next way around, took out the safeties, took out the corners, left the front 7 to give the offensive linemen some work, and then move down the field that way. Right. You know what I mean? So I mean, so giving them working on their pass protection, their run blocking, their double teams, whatever it might have been. And I thought that worked out kind of well.
I like that. I mean, like I said, you're getting everybody a chance to work.
Yeah.
Defensively, it's giving the defense a chance to work.
Yep.
Because it's conditioning for them just as well as it is your offense.
Absolutely. I mean, that bandage drill. I mean, you can mix it up so many different ways. That's another reason why I love 7-on-7, but I would love to see him change it a little bit to where why not put a couple linemen in there and give them some work. Give them some work in their vertical drops.
Right.
You know, where they have to actually pass pro.
So let me ask you this. And down there, do you guys actually wear helmets for 7-on-7?
Yeah, they wear helmets.
We don't.
Yeah.
We're talking about it. A friend of mine in Oklahoma, they do. And that's what got me thinking. I was like, you got so many kids getting concussions or getting their teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
Going across the runner, why shallow and the Y gets his teeth knocked out. I mean,
because I like 7-on-7. I really do. But it's not real football in a way, because it's just, if you can get some back, obviously you're going to count your 4 seconds. And if the quarterback doesn't throw the ball, then it's sack. I get all that. But why not simulate it a little bit more? Give him a little bit more realistic reps as far as having a guy in his face and have him getting even in the spring, because I'm a firm believer that will pay off dividends in August and September, because he's already seen the guys in his face, as opposed to all of a sudden now in the first couple weeks, oh man, now he's getting a little jumpy. Whereas I've been dealing with this in the spring, so I'm kind of used to this. I can go with my progressions and not have to not panic, not get in panic mode. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would love to see some changes come to 7-on-7 as opposed to just having linebackers and corners and safeties out there just covering the receivers and just the quarterback just hopping around in the pocket.
Right. Well, I see giving your running back some work too, because if you're going doubles or trips, if he didn't have a pass route, what's he doing except standing there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Give him some work on that defensive tackle out there. Or if you're blitzing that linebacker off the edge, let him pick him up.
Well, and not only that, but to extend on that too, if you had those linemen, you can also start working on rollout stuff, your sprint out stuff, because now you have guys you have to escape to get out of the pocket. It just adds a little bit more to the 7-on-7 that I would love to see be put in, because I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good, and it's a good way to get started with the guys and getting the reps with the passing game. But the realism, the realistic reps that they're actually getting that's the one thing I don't necessarily like about it.
Right. And that's probably what we're going to get to tomorrow, depending on the weather,
Right.
So that's what we'll do.
What I would do in 7-on-7 in practice is I would do it like I was just explaining. I would put a couple offensive linemen and D line and give him a pass rush.
Uh-huh.
And so, so I would try and simulate in practice a little bit more. Say, you got to get the ball out.
Right.
You got to move in the pocket as opposed to just sit there and just hop on your feet. Move, slide. If you see the pressure coming from your right, slide to your left. Get used to having that pocket presence.
Well, it's going to turn around and help the lineman too, because they know where he is. Or they know where he is, but they don't know where he is once he starts scrambling. They got to get their head on a swivel.
Yep.
Okay, he's out here. I got to go out here.
And to me, that's more realistic reps.
It is.
Those are more valuable reps than just having the receiver and the quarterback just bounce around and just waiting for a receiver to open up. And I don't, so I don't know. I can go on about that. So let's continue.
Okay.
So we talked about install. You mentioned you talked about. I'm kind of curious because I mean there's so many different ways to do it, and I'm still looking for the most efficient way to do it. You talked about wristbands, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you also talked about signals. So when you said you signal to them, and then they get that signal and they look to the wristband, or what?
What they actually do is everything's colorized by formation, and then I wanted, when I first got here, I wanted to give every kid in the program a wristband, but realistically, printing 60 wristbands a week, I couldn't do it.
And then they would change too, right? You would be changing.
I change every week.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
And so we ended up. So one of the coaches, and this was a kid that just graduated 2 years ago. He's here helping his dad. He's like, "Coach, what if we just had 11?" I said, "One for every position." He's like, "Yeah, let's just do one for every position." As the kid comes off, he rips it off. And if the Y comes out, he gives it to the next Y.
Right.
I was like, "Well, there's 11." So, but yeah, we give them a color and I signal a number.
You hold up like a card for a color?
Yeah.
You don't need to show me. I don't want you to go in too deep, and
That's
maybe
right. It's
someone
okay.
might,
It's okay.
some of your competitors might be watching it.
It's okay. Well, here's my play card. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, yeah. You show that looks similar to what you showed me last time. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything. So I've got. I have a senior that's a volleyball, not a volleyball player. She plays basketball. She wants to become a coach, and she came to me and is like, "Can I help the team?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can help the team." And she just stands over there and holds a 3x5 card about like this size, and it's just the color, and all she does is hold it up, and I sit on the number, and the kids find her, find me, and they know what play they've got.
That's all. Now, with that, now that color and the play, that's just play. Now, what happens if you want to sprinkle in motion? Do you have to do an extra signal?
No, because I put it on the wristband.
Okay. So the motion is mixed into the play that's actually already on the wristband.
Right. The only people that get motion are the quarterback and the guy going in motion.
Now, what happens too if which can be these are things that I'm trying to think about when I play call, trying the most efficient way to do it. Any kind of tags. If you want to change something up.
If I want to change something up, then I give them a signal. So instead of giving them the number, then I have to signal something else.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, because
work it where I've messed with it because I like the wristbands. I do. And here where my school we used wristbands too, and it was nice. But like you said, changing those things around every week is tedious, very tedious, and it can get a lot. So I've thought of ways, and the way that I've come up with that the best way I can find would be it's kind of similar. I don't know if you've heard what Lasker talked about, how he showed his play calls, where he has wristbands. Now, majority, if not all of the offense is through hand signals. But those longer plays or those plays that I don't want to call them gimmick plays, but plays that, hey, we added something to this or a little, let's call it a wrinkle, right? Those are on the wristband.
Right.
And then he would call a color or this and that. So that's kind of how where I would, and it's kind of very similar to what I was back in the middle school days where I would formation and then signal play. It was all hand signals. And then if I had a motion, the motion would always be second if I was using a motion, and then go from there. And then I had each receiver was assigned a hand signal as far as like hands up, to side, whatever it might be. And then we had like 3 or 4 tag routes.
Right.
And then we would just give the signal for that route if we want them to run that route. And that's how I did it.
Yeah, it's funny. Friday I had a kid because we had a couple of plays that never changed on the wristband the whole year, the whole 10 weeks, or actually 11 counting spring ball or summer ball, never changed. So anytime, they're sitting there laughing on Friday, like, "Are you changing those this year?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." And they're like, "Well, you didn't even have to give us the color of the number. We knew what the play was." I mean, with this repetition.
Right. Yeah. No,
you wanted something. We knew what you wanted. I said, "Why did it take so long for you guys to line up?" So.
Well, that's great, man. I don't want to go too long tonight. It's already almost 9:00. Mine. I got school tomorrow. But are you able to share your screen, or you want me to do it through mine to show me that play? And you can kind of just guide me through it. I mean, I can do it through Huddle through here if you want me to, and then you just tell me what to do.
I guess. I mean.
All right. Let me pull it up first.
Okay. I mean.
Unless you can do it and share your screen.
I can't do anything. I'm on my school computer and they lock everything down. So
hey, no problem. I got you. Let me just go ahead and we'll do this. This will be the last thing we do for tonight.
Okay. I mean, if anything, I can just draw it up and take a picture and send it to you. But,
well, I mean, this will be on YouTube, so people will show it, so.
Right.
So, if you don't mind, popping that out on YouTube at all. Let's see here. All right, so can you see that?
Yes, sir.
You Okay, so give me is it a 2 by?
Okay.
Well, let's do this. I'll just do it in. Hold on. Actually, you know what? No, we'll do it this way. Just do that. And pop those in. And this one will be X, right? Well, do you have an H?
Yes.
H, Z,
Yes.
Z,
Y.
Y.
F.
We'll just call this one Q, right?
Okay. All right. So
I do them in colors. Do you want a defense at all or no?
no, just an offense is fine because we didn't know what they were going to do first time we put this in.
Do you want them in colors at all? Because I usually
No,
do.
they're fine. I can see it. It's good.
Okay.
Okay. So leave X where he is. Put Y in like a true tight end.
Okay.
And then you want to flex him out like I told the guy 3 steps.
Flex Y out.
Yep, right about there. Yep.
Okay.
Put Z back on the other side, the other 20, or the
Off the line.
Off the ball. Off the ball. If you're off the ball, you're always off the ball.
Yeah.
H is between the right tackle and the Y.
Right here.
And he's in an upright stance.
Yep.
F is in what we call queen, which is on the other side of the quarterback.
Is he sidecar? Or is he kind of split that?
He's in this particular. He's going to take 1 step behind the quarterback.
Right there. Okay.
Okay, and then we're going to teach this really simply. The whole left side blocks down, gap down. So your left tackle and your left guard are gap blocking down.
This.
Center's going to replace the guard.
So center's going to skip pull this way.
Yes.
And then he's going to up this way like that.
No, the other way. Sorry, he's going to replace the right guard.
Oh, he's going to replace the right guard. So is he pulling or what's he doing?
He's gap. We call it gap down.
Oh, so he's gap down in 2.
Yep.
Okay. So he's skip pulling.
Yep. So the guard's going to skip pull to the left.
DN.
Yeah, to the left side.
Is he going right here? Okay.
Till the tackle has to replace the guard, so he's gap down that way. The H is going to follow the pulling guard.
So he's not. So he's blocking as well.
No, he's actually the shovel guy.
He's a shovel guy. So okay. So I'll put him in a route.
Okay.
So is he cutting up this way, or is he coming out to the outside? Where's he going?
He just follows that pulling guard.
Okay. So let's just pretend that he's probably going to cut up right there, right?
Yep.
Imagine because he'll probably this guard's probably kicking out that defensive end, right?
If there's one there, if he's not, I just tell him to go to the next level.
Okay.
Because like I said,
if that linebacker's right here, I imagine he's still kicking him out this way. So imagine that's the gap, or that's where the hole is going to be.
Right. First time we ran this, we had no clue what we were going to get on defense. So, and then you're just running speed option to the left with your running back and quarterback.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just like the Florida thing.
Yeah. And that's what I taught my quarterback and running back. I just told them all it is 19 speed option or 19 speed.
Now, question though, I'm kind of curious, but I mean, this is just throwing things out here. What if you run this enough, right? He's block, and then he kind of takes off that way, and he can speed option and throw it over the top. If that corner decides to, we've seen the speed option enough, then I'm going to come attack this, and kind of just gets lazy and leaves the X.
The only choice we had this year was we'd go in and carry out speed and pitch it to our running back, and he would throw it because our quarterback couldn't get his hips turned enough to, go into because he was right-handed.
Right. Yeah.
But he could pitch it better right-handed because he was pitching to the left. But we did have that option where we could pitch. If we wanted to do that, we'd pitch it early to the running back, and then he would throw a halfback pass off of it.
Gotcha. So
then go ahead. Sorry.
What is Y doing?
Y's running a post.
Or just a post.
Just to occupy people. And Z would run a 10-yard dig.
Gotcha.
Like that.
a throw out of this, kind of just like give the motion where he kind of motions out like he's doing the option, and then kind of sits back and throws it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I remember correctly, because I'm going to go back to the old Buckeye days, but Jim Tressel had something like that with Troy Smith, where they would show speed option, and all of a sudden he would step back and then throw, like they look, you know what I mean? It's hard to. I have to go and draw it up or show a film of it, but it was kind of a cool little play.
Kind of like the old veer pass.
Yeah,
Take veer and then bounce back 5 steps and let it fly.
yeah, and it was all the quarterback. He would look like he would run about 4 or 5 steps with the speed option with the running back, and then bounce back, and then it was a throw, and usually it was a post over the middle that he was hitting.
Right. Our coaches got it from Lou Holtz back when Lou Holtz was Notre Dame, Tony Brooks and Rick Meyer and all those guys.
Right. So this play looks very familiar. Yeah, I remember Urban Meyer burning my Buckeyes with this in 2006.
Yeah, Hernandez was the H, I believe.
Yes. So that's a good play. I like that. All right, Robbie. I'm gonna cut it short tonight.
Okay.
Because, apologize for the technical difficulties, and we're gonna have to get back on here. Maybe how about we do this like maybe a weekly thing? Maybe we'll do this next time.
We can do that. We can answer questions too, or
absolutely,
however you want to do it.
Absolutely. We'll see what kind of feedback this gets, and see if anybody has any questions, and we'll go from there.
All right.
I definitely want to hear about the rest of your season. We only got to the install portion.
Yeah, we're just install day 1.
So got a long way to go.
All right.
And I don't know the rest of y'all guys, whoever's watching, they start spring ball tomorrow already. So a little jealous. I mean, I'm not sure when we start in the spring here in North Carolina, but it's not too far away. We're still in clinic season, but it's coming. But hey, good luck tomorrow, Coach, and we'll reconvene here soon.
All right. Take care.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.